It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Take Command podcast from Odyssey Sports. Hope everyone had a lovely Thanksgiving. As I told you on the preview show, whatever happens in the game, don't let it ruin your day. And boy, did the Commanders try. Unfortunately, it was a 45-10 loss that was ugly in every single way. A game where the opposing starting quarterback winds up beating a turkey leg in the middle of the fourth quarter. Not good, Logan. Not good on offense. Not good on defense. It was like there's moments in the game where they're in it. They're competitive for three quarters. The defense, the one time they kind of bowed up is in the middle of that third quarter, and the offense couldn't get anything going. And then absolute implosion in the fourth on both sides of the ball. A 25-0 fourth quarter for the Cowboys. Not good all around, Logan. Not good all around.
Yeah, and I think like you said, like the offense did some stuff early that, was good. They moved the ball well. They made some plays. They looked competitive. That you kind of saw shades of Sam Howell, but then you get into that third quarter, kind of when you got to have it. And I think that's the thing about it. You got to have it. And I think the defense stepped up and got 2 3-and-outs, which was more than I expected from them, right? And
right.
then
Especially based off that first half. Like, the drive chart in the first half is ugly.
It's crazy. And I think the fact that you're not able to offensively capitalize on one of those is pretty tough, I think. And I think that's the difference in the game. And that's the difference between Dallas and Washington at this point. Like, they've got a ton of playmakers. They've got a ton of opportunity. Like, they can afford to go 3-and-out, but there's just so much offensive firepower. The execution's so high. The quarterback's playing so well. Doesn't really matter. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll get the ball back. Our defense is playing that good as well. And I think that's what you're seeing with the top teams at the moment. It's not just good offensive production, but it's good, well-rounded defensive production too. And I think, think about this team. Like, if the defense is able to play a little bit better at the end of the second half, does the offense have so much pressure on it to go score in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter? Like, I don't know. So, yeah, that's kind of my high-level thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's not like, let's be very clear, and I think some people still are confusing some of the things that we say for not being critical or not whatever, because we don't say them angrily. But like, it is what it is. Like, this is a bad football team, and the Cowboys are a good football team. They're a good football team that really beats up on bad football teams, and we'll see just how good they are in the playoffs. And if this is a Cowboys podcast today, that's probably what we're talking about, right? It's like, how good are they? Can we trust them to finally pull through against a good team instead of just beating the absolute crap out of bad teams? But this team is now 2-8 in its last 10. They start after a 2-0 start against teams that were playing terrible ball at the time. It's not good. And so on both sides of the ball, it's just, it feels like it's deteriorating. I think that's the thing that's like kind of stunning. You kind of were hoping that this team would build throughout the year, especially offensively. You thought they would build and get better. And, I feel like that's still the story they're trying to sell, because you hear Romo on the broadcast talking about it. Like, oh, we're, they feel like they're really starting to find each other's grooves, Sam Howell and Eric Bieniemy. And then you just look at kind of what this offense did yesterday, and it didn't feel cohesive. It didn't feel rhythmic the entire day, even though they moved the ball some. It felt like some of, like, at the times that it was going, it felt like, okay, we're doing something, but it's not going to go anywhere. They did a good job of not going 3-and-out, which is better than going 3-and-out.
Right.
But I guess here's the word I would use, Logan, is I talk myself in circles enough to finally land the plane.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel threatening. This offense does not feel like it's threatening, and that is obviously far less than ideal.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that to a certain extent. Obviously, I think the thing that when you watch like the series, the sequences, and obviously we haven't watched all 22, so it's hard to make like declarative statements.
Sure.
But one of the things that sticks out to me is Sam Howell and what he does to elevate the offense, and how he kind of like he'll extend, he'll get back out of there, out of the pocket, and he'll find somebody for a first down. And he should not have to do that for the offense to function, I think, is the thing that I'm kind of getting to, right? Is like, there should be opportunities for him to kind of just have like easy game plan, like watch that San Francisco game. Like Brock Purdy, he makes plays, no doubt, but there's also some easy throws, some easy opportunities, some easy reads. Kind of, is it open? Yeah, I'm throwing that sucker. Kind of opportunities that are developed through game plan. And I feel like there are times where That's not here. Now, there's times where he's missing open guys. Like there's his big scramble. I want to say I forget exactly the sequence, but I think it's in the second quarter. They run mesh, and the guy over the ball is wide open. He doesn't throw it. Like he scrambles. It's a good play. Great job by him. But so
Yeah.
it's not all him elevating the offense and everyone's covered all the time. It's kind of a little bit of both. But I just wish there were there were just better opportunities for him to kind of
Yeah. There's just no big explosive plays.
yeah, easier opportunities maybe is what I'm
Yeah.
looking for. Just stuff where it's not like he doesn't have to be back there like reading stuff out all the time. And I understand like he's done a great job with that. He's developed tremendously in that area, but it just seems like tough sledding a little bit
Yeah.
offensively. So
I wonder when we watch the tape, are we going to go back and be like, oh, well, it's his fault that he's actually having to do all that because he's missing open guys and the line's holding up enough? Or is it like, oh, man, this offensive line has regressed? Because that's another area where, like, earlier in the year, we were pretty adamant that, like, the O-line is playing better than people realize. And they were. That analysis doesn't get incorrect in
right.
hindsight. But that doesn't mean that the level is maintained. And against a D line like Dallas, like we knew they were going to struggle, and that's really tough when you go into a game knowing that your line is going to struggle because they're just not playing at a high level. And I think that's something that was apparent last night in like key got to have it situations. Like you knew Dallas was getting pressure. It felt like Sam was going to have no hope, and they held up a couple times, but there's a lot of those where it feels like pretty instant pressure. In key situations.
I think it's also just important to remember that Dallas is they're the number one pressure team in the NFL, like by far. 44% of the time they're creating pressure. So you knew, irrespective of how the offensive line's playing, there's a reason they're good at it. Obviously, they have guys like Micah Paulsen, and they have 6 or 7 dudes that can rush the passer at a high level. So you knew that was going to be an issue. It's just about how you can manage it. So actually, through the first half, I was like, they did an okay job. Like it wasn't perfect. I'm not saying that they're like the God's gift to offensive line play, but at least you could run a functioning offense. And I felt like in the second half, they made some adjustments, or we just didn't adjust, kind of to the competitive element of the game in terms of offensive line play. And you end up with a sack on 4th and 1. And like that's kind of the big definitive moment for me that I remember in terms of offensive line play. But there's a couple pressures.
Also, you can't get it blocked up on and this isn't a pressure situation, but the other 4th and 1, the run play.
The run.
That's not my favorite call, but that's also like there's instant dude in the backfield.
And so
I'm not talking about Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, the thing about Dallas is that I love when you watch them defensively is they run a ton of line stunts. And as a guy who was basically an extension of the offensive line for the majority of my career, one of the things about teams that move around a lot, it just makes it really hard to sync combinations, and especially in short yardage situations. And you got to be good at it because I think we've seen this team run line stunts and then get picked up and it's not executed well. Right. But the way they run it is great. And I think you got to give them credit but that's what they do. And in a short week, that line movement in those short yardage situations and other situations in the game, like you could see, like we'd have a couple big runs, and then the next sequence, EB's getting ready to call a run, and Dallas has like this excellent line movement with a little bit of pressure, and you can't get it blocked up in time because you just haven't seen it. So another thing that's kind of tough, that's tough sledding on a short week to get that stuff kind of schemed up. But I think they have a really fun, dynamic defense with that kind of stuff, and it makes those things really, really challenging. But I agree, you got to get it blocked up on 4th and 1, and it's another.
Or you got to
reason.
know that that's coming and not call it.
Right. And, we can talk about like gun runs in short yardage situations. Like, I don't love that, but, like they obviously do because they run it a couple times this year. And I don't know, like gun run, short yardage, a team that moves a lot, I want that back going downhill, if that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, so we can talk about that call till the end of time probably, but I don't want to.
We can talk about it more on the tape breakdown and see, because sometimes you don't like it and you're like, well, it was there if one guy just doesn't whatever. So we'll talk about that more on Tuesday. I mean, defensively, like
not great.
We knew it was going to be bad. It was funny because you stopped yourself on the preview pod and you're like, the one thing that I feel good about, and you're like, I don't know if it's good, gives me some hope, is how they line it up and all that kind of stuff. But it felt like Mike McCarthy just picked them apart, really was able to play on a certain things. And, it felt the exact opposite of Washington's offense, where not only were they threatening, it felt like they could kind of pick their spots where it's like, okay, time to score. And that is not a good feeling for a defense. Obviously, this defense has a lot of problems. It's going to be basically impossible to solve them. I'm not going to, not mention this because I tweeted it. Like, after that, I would probably be like, okay, sorry, Jack, you're going to be the sacrificial lamb going into this Miami game. But I also say that admitting that it doesn't solve anything. Like, it's not actually going to change anything. It just maybe slows down some of the rabidness of people who want heads on platters. And as a new ownership group, maybe that's something you're interested in. But as I've also said, contradicting myself, to the point here really to take away is that all the coach movement stuff is pointless. It's coming in whatever number of weeks anyway.
Right.
But if you move on from someone now and you screw up the next hire, then no one's going to be happy about the fact that at least you fired him during the season.
Right.
But I just think after that, where it felt like the defense was so mismatched that I would make a change. But I think the more important thing is, like, why did it feel so inevitable? Why did it feel like it was so mismatched? How the hell did we get here?
Yeah, and I think I just want to point out that, like, what I'm about to say is going to sound like I'm being an apologist for the defense, but I also am saying this knowing that the defense is not good. So,
Right.
like, to me, for it to be 10-14 against Dallas before that 2-minute drive at 1:51 in the second quarter, I think the defense exceeded my expectations. Obviously, they go down and score, and there's a little bit of a, there's that 2nd and 10 where it's like a tip ball by 36, and it gets caught for an explosive play.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's insane.
And so you're kind of like,
what
man,
a microcosm of the season.
Yeah, 100%. And so it's all kind of fallen for Dallas. And so it's 10-20, and you're like, oh man, like, this is tough. Like, the defense coming out of halftime has to get a stop. If there's any chance for this team to be in the game, they have to get a stop. And my expectation was that they wouldn't be able to do it. They come out, they do it. Great. That's awesome. They go, you know what I mean? And then they get another stop in the third quarter. So, like, the defense, for how poorly they've been playing, I thought had moments where you're like, that is enough to get us at least back into the game if the offense executes. Now, I'm not being critical of the offense here. They got a young quarterback, Sam Howell, whatever, in a tough environment on Thanksgiving, all those things. So just hear me out. Both of those things are very low expectations. The fact that defense gets a 3 and out, and I'm stoked about it, very low expectation. And then the expectation that Sam goes and scores, also kind of unrealistic. But I think that's where we're at. If you say, what do we have to do to win this game? Like, that's the type of stuff you're talking about. And like you said, the offense felt a little bit middling at times. The defense really struggled, but they had these moments. And I'm like, if the defense does that, a group that's been getting beaten up all season, you have to be able to capitalize offensively. And it's just the margin for error for this team is so incredibly small against a team that, like Dallas, that's playing really good football against bad teams at the moment. So,
yeah, no, I mean, like you said in the preview pod, like, your expectation was they were going to give up 30.
Yeah.
And it's like, can the offense score 35? And, that was the moment for the offense to try to get to that number.
Correct.
And the offense came up short. It's a chronology thing, not a blame assignment thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, the defense finally did just boy, there we go. This stat is incredible. From Optus Stats, entering today. Did you see this yet?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. Entering today, so yesterday, NFL teams were combined 57-0 in the last 25 regular seasons when having a game with 100-plus yards rushing, 250-plus yards passing, 35 minutes or more time of possession, no more than 25 penalty yards, no more than 1 turnover. Commanders did all of that yesterday and lost by 35.
Dang.
They were 57-0 in that situation.
So they had 100 yards rushing, 250 yards passing.
100 yards rushing, 250 yards passing, 35 minutes time of possession, no more than 25 penalty yards, no more than 1 turnover.
Wow.
And it just, like, to me, that is actually the most, like, in-your-face illustration of the thing that I've been saying for weeks, which is this team cannot finish.
Yeah.
And, like, you can speak to this better than I can, having played in the league for 10 years. But moving the ball between the 20s is not that hard in the
Right.
NFL.
Yeah.
Scoring is really hard in the NFL. It's why every coach will tell you celebrate touchdowns. Like, it's cute, the Barry Sanders, like, hand the ball to the referee thing. Like, you've been there before. Okay. But, like, you ain't going to find many coaches that aren't going to let you celebrate touchdowns, because touchdowns are hard
Big
to
deal.
get. And this team has trouble scoring them, and they have trouble not giving them up. And the ability to finish a drive offensively or defensively, to get off the field or to get the ball and punch it in, whether it's interceptions, whether it's fumbles, whether it's, which obviously weren't as big of a deal this week. Congrats to Deron Bland on his NFL record.
Wow. Yeah. Good
but,
for him.
Or just, on third down, the conversions, fourth downs. I mean, they were awful in fourth down in this game. The ability to just make the play that you need in the NFL, that's the difference in the good and bad teams, and we, to kind of put it in a different light, you talk about when you do your film stuff, you mark green plays, red plays, good plays, bad plays.
Right.
You're pretty much always going to have way more green plays than red plays. It's just, when are those red dots happening?
Yeah.
And how bad are they? Is it, hey, we gave up, we gave up 7 yards on a 3rd and 3, inside our own, or, and at the minus 25, and, then we got 3 more stops, and, we forced a 3 and out, or is like that red dot coming in the green, or in the red zone, and we gave up a touchdown? And like, where the green and red dots are for this team is really what it's going to be about, because you read those stats and like, there's going to be a lot of green dots. There's going to be a lot of plays that get you to 100 plus rush yards, 250 plus pass yards, to hold the ball as long as they did. But part of that is also because Dallas just didn't waste any time scoring a couple times. And, they have a pick 6 and all those things. And the biggest plays in the game are all in Dallas's favor.
Yeah, and I think also, like you mentioned, the fourth down thing, like that's a huge element of this game, a huge element. Like, as you said, they didn't turn the football over, but every time it's a fourth down, it's a turnover.
Right.
And like, I'm just looking at my notes. They had 3 fourth downs that they didn't get, right? And then they threw a pick 6. They threw a pick 6. And so versus a defense that's struggling, and especially in some of those situations, I forget which one it was. They were kind of like on their side of the field, which again, I don't hate the decision to go for it, but you're putting your defense in a bad spot here sometimes with some of these. And like, in a game like this, you need to go for fourth downs. Like, you just have to. You have to possess the football. You have to keep your defense off the field, and you got to hit one of these. And so I think the one that we kind of already talked about was the 4th and short with the run. That's tough, because I think you got to make that. I don't hate the call on third and 1 to take a shot. I thought that's the right decision, but you got to have a call there that's going to get you that 4th and 1. Then you have the sack. The next time you go for it, you have the sack on 4th and 1, and you have an incompletion to 17 on the next 4th and 1, and then the next one you throw a pick. Like, I know the score was bad, and it's not great, and it shouldn't be great. Like, whatever, but you could have made a decision on maybe after the first one that we're not going to go for any more fourth downs, and they're going to have to drive the length of the field, and you could have kept that score probably 10-35 or something, like under whatever it ended up being. Probably saved yourself a possession there. So I don't know. It's tough, man, and it's basically 4 turnovers. Like, that's essentially what you're looking at there with those fourth down, not getting those fourth downs. And you can't win games turning the ball over. I know that's not a pick. I know it's not a fumble, but it's 4 turnovers against a really good football team in Dallas. Like, you can't win doing that. So, totally. I mean, like, there's many things to talk about in this game. You mentioned the green red dot. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of stuff that's positive, like in a microcosm, like a one playoff. But like you said, it's the sequencing, and it's in a vacuum. Yeah. So, to me, those 3 fourth downs are like, that's where you have to make plays. Like, those are deciding moments in the game.
Right. It's just a lack of playmaking that has been there all season long. Last but not least, real quick, we touched on it a little bit already, but Sam's day. I feel like we've gotten to the point where, earlier in the season, it's like, man, can they just get a little bit more out of him? Can he do a little bit more to elevate this offense? And now it's like he often feels like the only reason the offense is doing anything.
Right.
And again, we're gonna have to take a deeper look at this on the All-22, but like the elevator pitch version of Sam's day is what?
Well, I think this is like kind of my thought coming out of the season too, and I think that it's reflected in this game. I think when they can possess the football, Sam gets in a rhythm and Sam looks good. When they are in these phases where they go 3 and out, 5 and out, 6 and out, he looks unsettled. And it's partially because his production is so correlated to how the offense produces. Like when you throw the ball as much as this team does, like he's
Right.
got to play well. And so the second he takes a little bit of a dip, the offense takes a dip, and the offense becomes less efficient. And I think that's something that, and it's not always his fault. So like I don't know, for example, in the fourth quarter, 3:13 36 or 13:36 is the start of the drive. Like they start off with a sack, right? And then it's like the next play is it's like an incomplete pass, and then he makes this excellent completion to Pringle, right? It's 3rd and 17. He escapes the pocket, he's scrambling, delivers
Yeah.
it. It's 4th and 1. They don't get the 4th and 1 because they take another sack. So in that sequence, like bad taking the sack. It's probably not on him. I think the offensive line had an issue there. Incomplete pass, bad on him. Amazing play, like really an amazing play. 4th and 1. They cover the concept. You can tell it's covered. There's a little bit of pressure. B-Rob's late getting over to it, and he takes a sack. So it's like, I'm not saying he needs to elevate those situations, but look at that. I think that drive is really
It just illustrates how much is on his plate.
100%.
That's the thing that, like, when we talk about futures and stuff with EB, like, that's a conversation that when I'm the new whatever, if I'm considering keeping him, I'm like, why did you put so much on this kid? And I
Yeah.
don't know what his answer would be, but like that's something that I would want to understand about how he thinks about offense. Was that a choice based off development? Was that a choice based off this is how I want to play? And depending on his answer would determine what I would do with him in the future. All right. That's it for the show today. There's just not a lot here. A very solid football team that beats up on bad football teams, beat up on a bad football team. And
100%.
unfortunately, we talk about the one that's not very good right now. We will be back with our usual schedule next week. Be back on the radio Monday. Other than that, enjoy your holiday weekend. Enjoy a weekend with your family, your friends, or your own peace and quiet, perhaps, whatever it is that floats your boat. For Logan, I'm Craig from all of us here at 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980, wishing you a healthy and happy holiday season. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command. First, why don't you like it? It lets other people know that it was good, and then they should watch it too. And Logan, we have a new exclusive home for full episodes.
We do. 106.7 The Fans YouTube page. Go check it out and please subscribe.
Yeah, do what Logan said.
Do
He's
it.
very, very smart.